The series begins with a group of colleagues enjoying themselves at a karaoke club. There are drinks, good food, and best of all, nobody is embarrassed to grab the microphone and have a good time. A few minutes later, the protagonist, David, leaves the house and we discover he's not drunk. He's actually in the middle of a secret mission with his team. In the lobby, we meet Beck, who is part of the team and has confirmed that their target is present at the hotel. A Russian ambassador who is Vladimir Putin's right-hand man. Beck plays her part perfectly and leaves a device near the ambassador. A few seconds later, he starts convulsing and dies before he hits the floor. The only unplanned detail is a guard who went up with her in the elevator. Now it's time to forget about her fake pregnancy and get to work. Using the guard's gun, Beck unleashes chaos in the hotel, fighting her way through the crowd as she figures out how to get out of there alive. Before Beck can escape, David surprises her teammate and knocks him out with great skill. Back in the lobby, Beck takes off her disguise and walks out of the building as if nothing happened. Having successfully completed her mission, Beck reaches the street, but before getting into the van with her teammates, she notices a broken light and discovers that David is on board. It turns out that David was never part of the team. He actually infiltrated their signal, and his plan is to catch Beck. The scene changes to show us Juno, who is dealing with a traitor who has leaked information to the CIA, and that will cost him his life. Beck and her team work for Juno, so it's alarming to learn that a stranger meddled in their mission and almost caught one of her best agents. She immediately orders her men in Japan to hunt down this individual. She wants his head on a platter in less than 48 hours. While that's happening, we see David getting rid of the car and continuing his hunt. We still don't know his plan, but it's clear he's up against the best of the best. David calls a woman named Yu, who immediately asks him if he's found Beck. David says yes, but that he's not with her at the moment. However, he has good news. He's sure that this is the Beck he's been looking for over 9 years. This is where everything finally makes sense. David is Becca's father, who was taken from him and trained as an elite assassin. Now he wants to take her back home. If he plans to get his Wonder Girl back from Juno, he can't do it alone. So he visits his old friend Zhang, who is retired but still skillful. Zhang is hesitant to join the mission. Becca is the closest thing he has to a niece, and he would never leave his friend alone against someone like Juno. Back with Beck, she is safe and enjoying herself with a guy named Adworth, whom she uses from time to time to relieve stress. As for Juno, she has arrived at the offices in Japan and has unlimited resources to find the person who almost ruined her mission and killed 2 of her men. On the other hand, David is in a safe house with an encrypted connection. He has a few minutes to spare until his visitor arrives. He barely finishes cooking his daughter's favorite dish when an entire unit arrives at the house, so it's time to eliminate the unwanted guests to have a family reunion. Beck enters the house and is immediately drawn to the dish on the table. Adwood is surprised from behind. David manages to knock him out and lock him in a cellar. Now only Beck is left, and it's time to talk. The first thing Beck finds is a photo of her with David. That and the food on the table are proof enough of what's happening. Seeing her father, Beck screams at him in anger. For all these years, she thought he was dead and that he had actually faked his death to escape the agency with her mother. Beck doesn't accept his invitation to flee and calls Juno for some answers. David wakes up a few minutes later and tells B that he loves her very much. He just wants her to come home so they can be a family. Soon after, Adwood appears and pulls out his gun to execute David, but Beck kills him without hesitation. Despite the fact that he was the one she had been in a somewhat healthy relationship with for a few months. Beck checks Adwood's phone and finds a message from Juno with the order to kill David after she had told Beck that she didn't know anything about who they were chasing. Now it's clear that Juno is a liar. Thanks to this, Becca leaves with her father before reinforcements arrive. 24 hours after fleeing, Becca is with her father on the road, making brief stops to buy only what they need. However, she demands to know where they're going or she won't go another mile with him. Seeing that his daughter won't give in, he confesses that they are traveling to Busan to get their passports, and then they will return to the United States with her mother. Becca goes into the bathroom and takes a minute to call Juno and demand an explanation for the message she sent to Atwood. She has a lot of respect for her for having raised her as an assassin, but killing her father is crossing the line. Since Yoon refuses to give her an answer, B hangs up and returns to the road with her father. Soon after, they encounter a police checkpoint and must figure out a way to cross it without drawing attention. This won't be easy, as David ends up being taken out of the car and held at gunpoint to show his ID. Before things get complicated, Becca intervenes, snatches a gun from an officer, shoots him in the arm, and panic breaks out. Fortunately, they manage to change lanes and steal a car fast enough to escape without problems. Seeing that her men and the authorities are completely useless in this matter, Juno calls Gon, an expert hitman, to kill David once and for all. While Gon goes to carry out the job, David takes a moment to reconnect with his daughter by singing old songs to her. Beck, so distracted, doesn't notice that her father has drugged her, making sure she doesn't have a tracker and can cross the border without problems. Back with Juno, Senator Do-sun from the United States wants to ask her some questions. She was supposed to travel to Japan to meet with the Russian senator, but someone killed him and she might know why or who. When she finds out that her father drugged her, Bika tries to beat him up, but he hugs her tightly and tells her about the night everything turned into a disaster in their lives. They were on a very important mission for Juno when they made a serious mistake. They underestimated their enemy. When they raided the house, they found detailed files of their lives, including the existence of Beka and her current location. After that night, the entire unit returned home to save their families, but none arrived in time. Beck was saved only because her father faked her death, and the men who were chasing her left her alone. That day, Juno approached her and saw the potential her father had left in his daughter, so she trained her and turned her into her best asset. Before they can finish the conversation, Aiju calls David to tell him that someone is following her. She's not very far, so maybe David can get there in time. At Juno's offices, it is revealed that they have prepared an ambush for David. They just scared his wife, so she would call him and he would fall into the trap. Fortunately, David knows the procedure perfectly. He not only traps one of the bad guys, he also steals his radio and can now hear everything the others are saying. Using this advantage, he not only gets rid of several enemies, but also manages to get to the platform where his wife is hiding. Through the cameras, June watches Beck helping her father. David separates from his daughter and has a close encounter with Gon, who causes a wound in his abdomen. The guy has talent and the fight is brutal. They only manage to save themselves because Beck opens fire and causes panic, allowing him to get on the train before Gon can reach them. There, Aiju is waiting for them, and she has Kim, their daughter, with her. A detail that her father had not mentioned to Becca. David's wound is serious. The knives Gon uses are designed to kill on first contact. They need Yong to hurry up and get them their passports quickly. They need to get out of the country for Beck. Seeing her father with a new family is not easy, especially after having been convinced that he abandoned her. Now all of a sudden he's the father of the year and she has to forgive him. Although they have escaped for the moment, Yuno mobilizes her people to wait for them at the next stop. Something not easy since David is on a bullet train. 2 kilometers from the stop, David presses the emergency button and the train stops. Everyone gets off and starts to flee before the bad guys arrive. Using the sweetness of little Kim, the family gets a ride to Busan in a truck. Before getting in, David leaves a blood stain on another truck to use as a decoy. When Gon arrives, he takes the bait, and Juno's men are diverted to the decoy, allowing the family to escape without problems. A few hours later, and with some luck, the family arrives at a safe house in Busan. Now they just have to bide their time until Yong arrives with the passports. Yunju is worried. At first she thought her husband was just getting back. Now they are on the run. He's hurt and they've involved their little girl in all of this. She can't help but think that something bad might happen to them. David reassures her and assures her that they will soon be a family as expected. With the passports, they will leave the country and have a new life. Back with Juno, she is making too much noise with her hunt. Doze is back with accusations, and if she manages to verify that she is behind all this, it will not be good what will happen. In addition, he warns her that the CIA has started to watch her son, who seems to want to follow in his mother's footsteps, but without the necessary cunning to hide his tracks. Without wasting time, Juno visits her son Oliver to show him how reckless he has been by trying to operate in this world without the proper training. Oliver has high expectations, and Juno does not stop warning him how irresponsible he has been, making it clear that from now on he is out of operations since the CIA is watching him. The boy tells her that he just wants to be like Besa, but Juno has despised him all his life, and that will continue to happen if he doesn't prove to be smarter. In Becca's case, she also faces problems with her father after he surprised her teaching Kim how to use a weapon. Back in action, Gon arrives at Yong's restaurant, but his employee informs him that he has left. However, the reality is that Yong is still there. After slitting the cook's throat, Gon Alonza on his target. Zhang, although still agile, is no match for an expert assassin like Gon, who finally eliminates him and keeps the passports that David so longed for. To protect herself, Juno decides to hand over Beck. She shows Dawson the report on the Russian senator's murder, where Becca is named as the sole and main responsible party. That night, David arrives at the meeting point he had planned with Yang, but he finds an ambush. Luckily, he manages to evade them in the market. However, the house is no longer safe. They must get out of there immediately, or it will be too late. Against his mother's wishes, Oliver decides to double Gon's pay in the hope that he will let him participate in the hunt. His desire to prove to his mother that he is not useless could lead to his death. The family flees through the alleys, while Gon's men surround the house. David manages to take his family to the dock, where his plan B, a boat, awaits them. The problem is that the engine is cold, and they need a few minutes, time they may not have. It would be up to Becca to get enough time to prepare the boat. Meanwhile, they must distract the attackers with some pyrotechnics. The huge explosion ends the lives of several men. Now Beck and her father have balanced the forces, but Gon is obsessed with killing David, so he sends Oliver after Becca. The fight between Gon and David favors the villain until David uses his experience and manages to surprise him. In Oliver's case, his combat experience is practically nil. He is only driven by the desire to kill Beck and prove to his mother that he is not useless. Beck plays with Oliver for a while, but then decides to kill him. Luckily, her father appears and stops her. He wants to ask him a couple of questions first. Oliver confesses that it was Juno who betrayed David 9 years ago. His old unit needed a new start, so she used the families to finish them off when they were vulnerable. David calls Juno and throws it in her face that he knows everything. Given that she took his son from him, it's time to balance the scales. Through the phone, Juno hears her sons crying, and then a shot is heard. Juno finds Gon badly wounded, but she is only interested in knowing where her son is. Unfortunately, gone. The family arrives with David's father, who is happy to see his granddaughters, but wants to know why they are hurt and why they have weapons. Not far away, in a corner, they have Oliver. It is clear that they will not kill him, since he is useless, but he is more valuable alive than dead. Yu is losing her mind over her son's disappearance, which has blinded her to a bigger problem. Dose has a complete file on her, and she is only one mistake away from being put in prison for the rest of her life. David shows his daughter that Yoon wants to make an exchange. If they return Oliver to her alive, she will leave them alone. However, Beck assures him that Yu is lying. With her, it is kill or be killed. But David is not stupid. He comes up with a better plan. Use an audio program to edit Juno's words and make Oliver believe that his mother doesn't want him to come back. This reinforces Oliver's belief that he is useless and leads him to betray his mother. After a couple of tears, Oliver confesses that Juno murdered the Russian senator because he had sold information from the United States to her, and he planned to betray her. It's a dangerous spiral in which she has been playing with fire for too long, and now she doesn't know how risky it is. Oliver also reveals that Dawson is very close to catching his mother. If they manage to make Juno make a mistake that Dawson can see, the game will be over for her. But for that, they must stop running. It's time to go on the offensive. So father and daughter leave while the grandparents protect the rest of the family. Together, they travel to Seoul, to the CIA headquarters, where Dawson will be present for a conference. They install spy software on his assistant's phone. With this, they get the location of Dawson's phone. They plan to make a deal to clear their names in exchange for handing Juno over on a silver platter. When Oliver is no longer useful, David decides to free him, but warns him that his mother is not to be trusted and that he should look for another line of work. Perhaps this is the best advice the boy has ever received. Now that David knows the truth about the kind of partner he had, he seeks revenge on Juno, responsible for all his misfortunes and for losing 9 years with his daughter. For days, they watch her base of operations and her house. There they manage to see Oliver being interrogated by her, who knows that her son is lying to her about what he told David. Oliver breaks down and confesses to his mother everything he told David about her plans. The disappointment in Juno's eyes is undeniable, and she immediately calls an elite team to protect her. With the help of his resources, David manages to enter the building's surveillance center. He delays the cameras for 6 minutes. Enough time to carry out his plan. Father and daughter go up floor by floor and finally reach Juno's room, where they plan to place devices to discover her plots. With the work done, it's time to get out without being seen. The best way is a leap of faith from the top floor. Soon after, Oliver returns to the house and notices that one of his favorite paintings is crooked. When he takes it off, he sees the hidden camera that David placed minutes before. The idea of removing it and gaining some respect from his mother crosses his mind, but she calls him at that moment and tells him that he is no longer needed in the office. A clear sign of distrust. Oliver decides to leave the camera in its place. The bad news doesn't stop coming for Juno. She has just learned that Dawson has enough evidence to order an investigation into her. The doors are closing and Juno needs to act fast. Since Oliver confessed to revealing information to the enemy, he has been more watched than ever. Juno no longer trusts him, and although he is her own blood, his presence disgusts her. Determined, she sends Oliver with his father. There his safety is not guaranteed, and it is better for him to get away and live a normal teenage life. When Oliver finds out that his mother plans to get rid of him, he gets angry and runs away from home. He takes a car and speeds off while the guards try to catch him. David and Beck also chase him, guiding him exactly to where they need him to be, a villa on the outskirts of the city. At the precise moment, David presses a button and the car shuts down completely. A few seconds later, the car is in pieces. Oliver thinks his mother tried to kill him, but in reality, this is part of David's plan for him to finally betray her. A plan that succeeds. That same night, Oliver turns himself into Dawson, offers all the information he knows in exchange for immunity, and is willing to betray his mother. Dawson informs David that everything worked perfectly, but that Oliver has said that Becca participated in several murders, which will not be easy to erase. Still, David assures him that they had a deal, and that if he can't guarantee immunity for Beck, they won't help him land the final blow. While celebrating the partial victory of their plan, the safe house that Dawson got for them is attacked by a military unit. These men shoot to kill and corner David. With a precise shot, he manages to escape, but from a distance he sees a car run into Begon, who quickly drags her inside and takes her away. Unable to get there in time, David steals a motorcycle and chases the van through the city streets. Unfortunately, he has an accident and loses track. Now he doesn't know where they're taking his daughter, and the tables have turned. Baeka is with Juno, who is furious and will not be as understanding as David was with Oliver. Juno tells B how disappointed she is with her performance. She was the best in the company for years, and now everything is falling apart because of an illusion of family. People like them who kill daily have no right to have a family. How can you be part of something so pure when you have taken so many people's lives? With nowhere else to go, David turns to his father, who offers his help, but in exchange for a favor that David cannot refuse under any circumstances in the future, although he knows that owing his father a favor is serious. Due to the businesses with which he amassed his fortune, David accepts and gets equipment and reinforcements to rescue his daughter. While her father prepares to rescue her, Juno tries to convince Beck that she should never have left. She is the daughter that Juno always wanted. She even frees her and offers her everything she wants. She would never hurt her. It was she who raised her to become someone strong, and not even the fight with her father would destroy that. However, due to the pressure that Dosan is exerting on her, Juno will have to move her operations center to another country and invites Beck to accompany her and restore what they had. Beck accepts, and soon after, Juno prepares to leave the country. As they leave, she runs into Gon, who gives her flirty looks, but apologizes for having to kill her father. Back with David, his father-in-law has gotten him everything he asked for, a dozen armed men to rescue his daughter. The FBI arrives at Juno's offices, but she has not been there for a while. Juno and a convoy of cars head towards a private runway, but David has their location. First, he manipulates the traffic lights to create a traffic jam and guide Juno directly to where they are waiting for her. In an abandoned factory, they have no way out, and Juno's men can be ambushed without a chance to defend themselves. Gon decides to get out of the car and look for David on his own, killing 2 men in the process. Just when he has the opportunity, Beck launches her attack against the only man left standing. Now the battle is between Juno and her. David, unable to match Gon's skills with knives, begins to think outside the box and uses what he has at hand. He finally defeats the boy and takes his life with his own sharp and deadly weapon. At the culminating moment, David finds Baeka holding the gun, and Juno is ready to get what she deserves. Although David would be more than happy to pull the trigger, he must admit that Juno was the one who raised his daughter. It doesn't matter if she turned her into an assassin like him. The essential thing is that she kept her safe. So they leave, making it clear that if she dares to look for them again, they will return to finish the job. Juno gets on her plane and tells her assistant that they will start over somewhere else, away from the clutches of the law, where they are untouchable. The first season ends with the image that David always had in his head: a united family having dinner in peace and enjoying the life they have fought for. But everything changes when his wife takes longer than usual in the bathroom. When David finds her, someone has slit her throat. David begs her to hold on, but in her last moments, Juno reveals that it was Beck who did it.